Hello, everybody. This is the Chocolate News Podcast. I'm your co host, John Alexander Reese.
And I'm your co-host, Andria Carter.
And if you did not know, the Cincinnati Herald has been around since 1955 and is the leading African American owned newspaper in the greater Cincinnati area and northern Kentucky area. How's it going, Andrea?
It's going great, John. I mean, we're coming off the 4th of July weekend, had an unexpected extra day. So I had a 4-day weekend. Woo-hoo!
Nice. Glad you had a good fourth.
Oh, I did. I had a very relaxing, I cooked. I went and hung out with friends, had some good conversation. So it was wonderful. Even got underneath the tent very quickly so I didn't, get my hair ruined by the rain.
Oh, yeah, right.
Even though we had this guy who was there, he was bald and he was complaining about the rain because he didn't want the hair to mess up his hairdo. We all looked at him and was like, you are so wrong. Because he was sitting at a table full of women and we were all underneath the tent. Like we didn't want the rain to get in our hair.
Yeah. So Andrea, what's the chocolate news of the week?
Well, the chocolate news of the week, I'm going to start off before, like at the tail end, I should say at the start of the 4th of July weekend, the Supreme Court released two decisions. The first decision was the Supreme Court struck down affirmative action. They basically ruled that in the case that some Asian students filed against Harvard, that they were using race to decide who got into Harvard and who didn't. And the Supreme Court struck down in a 6-3 decision saying that the admission policies of Harvard had widespread and lasting implications, that it was not right. Actually, it was both Harvard and the University of North Carolina in two separate decisions, but they both struck down the use of affirmative action. And what, most people said you shouldn't use race to determine who gets in, who doesn't. I would say Ketanji Jackson Brown, she dissented in the decision, and she reminded the court the historical aspects of why affirmative action is in place. And, the result of greater access for Black and Brown students to get into colleges and universities that they didn't have access before. In a lower court in California several years ago made a similar decision, and you would see in their college systems at the top schools in the Berkeley campuses, you will not find that many Black and Brown faces because they changed the admissions policies. So this is going to have a devastating effect on who gets into what college. Yeah. Now, the backlash, though, on this case is the fact of the 6 who ruled in the majority on this was Clarence Thomas, who benefited from affirmative action. And the fact that he voted to turn it down just shows how a person who started out one way and over the years grew to react a different way, those viewpoints are now affecting us legally because if he, whatever decision he has against affirmative action. You've seen memes pop up. You've seen folks refer to Anita Hill saying that she warned us. This is not the first time that's popped up. This is not the first time. The backlash has been huge on Clarence Thomas. So it's a sad situation. One other decision the Supreme Court did was on upholding the rights of a person to reject service based on religious purposes, which mainly affects LGBTQ rights and religious freedom, which is sad.
Yeah.
Another decision the Supreme Court struck down was the student loan forgiveness plan, which, would have provided up to $20,000 in relief to millions of borrowers who borrowed money to pay to get into college. And now it's, even though Biden came out when don't worry, we have an alternative plan, that alternative plan may not benefit as many people as the forgiveness plan would have. So, because I know my sister, she is facing a huge debt because she refinanced her student loans and the refinancing worked against her instead of for her. So, and there are a number of borrowers in that situation of where when they refinance, the interest rate went up. And so the greater the interest rate goes up, the more they have to pay. So she's facing a boatload of debt, which is unfortunate.
That is a shame.
It is a shame because you wouldn't, it's, I don't mind, let's put it like this, I didn't mind having to borrow to go to school because
Mm-hmm.
it has helped me to get to where I am today. It helped me go to college. I went to HBCU, but I still had to borrow some money. Oh, no, I first started out at University of Cincinnati, but because at that time they didn't have a journalism degree, I switched to Central State where they had a journalism degree. And it worked out, but I'm still paying back a student loan from that time.
Right.
So, I mean, and then I tried to get a master's, it didn't work out. And that's just because I let other things affect me on my schedule so that I stopped getting my master's degree, but I still have to pay back the money. So,
Right.
so a lot of people are in the same situation as I am. And, I'm preparing my budget right now to pay back the student loan, starting to pay back in October. And, I'm just going to be going into my retirement, paying off my student loans. So, you
Mm-hmm.
can't let it affect you. You just have to roll it into your budget and keep on stepping.
Yeah.
Uh, so there's that. And I think it's unfortunate that this Supreme Court is so conservative and you don't want to weaponize the Supreme Court, but I think there's a call to expand the court. And I think justifiably they need to expand the court to make it a little bit more even, unless something changes. So I don't know. So we'll
Right.
have to see. So those decisions were made. So going into the 4th of July, everyone had a wonderful 4th of July weekend, whether you attended the music festival, and I should say the Essence Music Festival, or you went to other festivals, or you saw the fireworks. Everyone, there was a lot going on. I know in Cincinnati, there was a lot going on, and
Oh
there's a
yeah.
lot going on around the country. Unfortunately, in Baltimore, DC, Philadelphia, there were mass shootings over the weekend. And Texas, which, I mean, the gun violence alone was the result of about 60 people wounded, a dozen people are dead. Mass shootings, drive-bys. The first one was in Baltimore. Then I think it went to Texas, Philadelphia. I talked to a friend in Philadelphia who didn't even know what happened because where the incident occurred, she doesn't live. She lives more downtown near Franklin Park, and this incident happened, I can't remember. She told me it was either on the north or south side of the town. I can't remember where it occurred, but she's like, her father, who lives in the Philippines, he was calling her, and he was just worried that she needs to do more to protect herself. You can't trust what's going on these days. So there, unfortunately, the gun situation is getting out of hand with the gun violence because our young people find it easier to pick up a gun than settle an argument the traditional way, which is to actually settle the argument instead of picking up a gun and shoot first, ask questions later, even if they do ask questions. So it's kind of like, I don't know what to do. I think there's been a national call to action to stop the violence, but I would say the gun violence is the result of a number of socioeconomic situations, peer pressure situations, folks who are finding it easier to carry a gun than not. There are a number of factors going on as to what's going on with gun violence. And it's a political year.
Yeah.
Unfortunately. And when you have a political year, you have people looking for instant answers, and there is no instant answer for a situation that has been brewing for decades. The results of a decision made years ago or how habits developed is now affecting how our young people handle situations. And it's not just young people. You're seeing more and more I know in Cincinnati, we've had a number of domestic violence situations of where men have boarded themselves in houses, pointing a gun at a family member or friends before the situation is resolved. And it's kind of like a sad situation because a gun does not resolve anything. All
Yeah,
it does is
exactly.
that it exasperates the situation. And it's I also think it's a result of decades of trauma.
Yeah.
And most people don't believe me when I say that, but just to take a stop for a second and say that there's socioeconomic trauma, there's peer pressure trauma, there's mental health trauma from living in survivor mode, and that's all you see in your environment. Living with crime every day is violent. There's verbal abuse, physical abuse. Domestic violence is not designated to one group of people. It's all over the place. And how people handle that situation is interesting. People who've been incarcerated come back. It's just all kinds of stuff. And, and I worry about our community because our young people are committing suicide at an epidemic proportion because they're not giving the tools to emotionally handle what is going on today. And it's not just our young people, it's young people in general that are turning to more and more suicide. And on top of that, they're getting younger and doing it because they can't handle the pressure or can't handle the emotional situation that they're in. And instead of going to mom and dad and saying, I can't handle this, they're just saying, I give up.
Mm.
And our ancestors did not go through what they went through for our young people to just easily say, I give up and do something.
Exactly.
I don't know what happened, where our gumption went, where our tenacity, is that a word?
Yeah.
I'm thinking of another. I'm trying to think of words of strength.
Yeah, tenacity, that's the word of strength.
Tenacity, okay.
Yeah.
I mean, because we come from a group of people who survived slavery and then survived Jim Crow.
Yeah.
And survived and created, whatever home life they were able to create.
Yeah.
To endure all of that to get to this point, we're going back instead of moving forward. And it's just kind of sad. It's just a sad situation.
I think just after a certain amount of years, it just gets harder and harder. And Black folks have had it like the hardest. Like you said, we've endured slavery, we endured Jim Crow, civil rights. It's like so much we had to deal with, and just I think after a certain time, I think people are just finding it all hopeless, especially in today's climate. But that's still no excuse to give up. You just had to just keep on going.
Yes, we have to keep on going. And it's just kind of sad. It's a sad situation. And we're not going to resolve it today, but I think there needs to be, the community's moral voice is lacking in the amount of gun violence that's been going on. Now, the fact that it's not happening in certain community is probably the reason why it's not being dealt with effectively as well. I just think that something needs to be done. And we've had actually, you know what? We've had mass shootings for decades and nothing has ever been done.
Yeah, because we love our guns.
You know what? I don't mind people love guns.
Well, I
I
don't mind it
believe,
either. It's just my problem is that I think people just don't think about the consequences. And it's like we're just a gun obsessed culture. And like I said, I have no problem against guns, but I think it's just people, like you said earlier, like people just find the solution to things. They're just like just shoot a gun and that'll solve their problems. I don't think people look at the long term consequences of it.
no, yeah. And I think, and I would prefer that even though we are an at will carry state, I would prefer that everyone still had a permit, even if you are at will.
Yeah.
I think because I would have been, if, to me, I would feel better that everyone is trained, has a permit, and has gone through a class to handle a gun properly and put a gun lock on your gun.
Oh, me too. I totally support that.
And
As a liberal who who doesn't mind the Second Amendment, that's fine. But I think just because we have the Second Amendment, it's like there should be limits to that. Just like how
yes,
how there's limits on the First Amendment. Like you can't slander people or yell fire in the theater. Is that a thing? I can't remember if that's a thing or not.
what, yelling fire in the theater, yeah,
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. But yeah,
it's
there should be.
illegal to do it unless actually there is a fire.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. 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 But yeah.
but I think somewhere along the line, the philosophy of yes, having a gun has got lost
Yeah.
in this rhetoric, and I partially blame the NRA for it
Yeah.
because they lobbied hard for this. And the reason why I say partially blame the NRA is because America's moral voice over this has not been strong enough to counter it. We've had
Exactly.
enough incidents, we've had enough Congress people affected by it, we've had enough done that something needs to be done about it.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, there's enough big money in the guns that the message is not clear, that moral voice is going by the wayside because money is bigger than the moral voice.
Exactly.
Um,
I like to tell people NRA, they don't care about you. All the NRA cares about is selling you guns. They don't give a damn about your safety at all. And they keep peddling the same lies. They keep peddling every year saying that liberals are gonna take your guns away. Obama's gonna take your guns away. Guess what? Obama didn't take your guns away. No one's gonna take your guns away. It's like, and not doing it. This is money. It's all about money. Your guns are never going to go away, but they're always going to try to sell you more guns. And I just wish people, realize that.
yeah,
Instead,
because
we just
a general a homeowner, or no, just an individual person does not need an AK-47.
exactly,
It you don't need the guns that the military uses. You just need something to protect yourself and keep your home safe.
exactly,
Home, apartment, RV, camper, whatever you're
yeah,
trying to protect. That being said,
yeah,
so we're not going to resolve it today, but
yeah,
it's something that we unfortunately we're going to have more issues like this. This is the 4th of July.
yeah,
Um, we got to get through the rest of July, August. We got Labor Day, and it's just when is it going to be enough? When is it going to be everyone stands up and says enough?
I'm convinced they didn't do a Sandy Hook, so I'm convinced that's not going to happen. Unfortunately, I hate to be
And
pessimistic like that, but
I know,
you
how
know,
many babies do we have to lose until they do something?
yeah,
I mean, I thought something would happen when that Christian school was
yeah,
affected, but
yeah,
no, they didn't do it. And I'm like, whoa, it's deeper. That
yeah,
moral voice, we just don't have enough moral voices, or there's not a campaign out there to really truly the moral voice of America to decide about gun violence is if we have to vote out everybody out of Congress and the Senate and put new people in who will do what we want.
yep,
Until that campaign occurs, we're going to keep on doing this. And then those people who are right there say, well, what? We tried. No, you didn't try. Because if you really tried, you would have gotten it done.
yep,
So that's kind of sad. But anyway, moving on. I'm going to end this chocolate news on 2 interesting notes. Now, Jill Scott is a wonderful singer,
yes, she is,
and she a couple of times, I think you've seen, there are TikTok, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram videos of her singing where she changes the words to the national anthem.
mm-hmm.
And she did it again at the Essence Music Festival over the weekend. And it's basically everyone should see it and hear it, especially Black people, because she recognizes that slaves built America. America is not really free because of their biases, and that this is actually the home of the slaves because we're all slaved to our racist bigotry, and we're not letting ourselves be free from that to be free and
Mm-hmm.
accept everybody for who and what they are. So I think it's a nice little phrase. I think everyone should see it, share it, hear it, all that good stuff, because it represents what America is all about: accepting others for who and what they are, bring people of difference together, and recognize what we can do collectively together, or even under serious situations, what we have done. So there's that. But then also, I think there's like 3 more shows. Another aspect of American freedom is the Cincinnati Opera has premiered this new contemporary opera called The Knock. Now, you can find it on YouTube and see the 15-minute video of it to give you a small fraction of the 90-minute opera. I mean, it's only 90 minutes. There's no intermission. I was lucky to get a ticket when I did. And but basically, is The Knock is about several military wives who get together as they wait for their husbands or boyfriends to come home from fighting, for being overseas. And they are deployed, their husbands are deployed to Fallujah during the surge of the Iraqi war. And what happens is that one of the wives invites everybody over for dinner, and there is a knock on the door. And you know how you've seen the movies World War II, where the military sends an official, the chaplain, and someone local, and they knock on the door. Well, this is just one Army sergeant, lieutenant, or captain who's delivering a message from the Department of Defense that this husband has died. And it's a very contemporary version of what women go through waiting on their husbands to come home, or hearing that knock on the door and receiving the message that they don't want to receive. For Cincinnati, I think they only had like 3 days, and they had to add shows to how popular this is. And I know a lot of people think, oh, the opera, oh no, I'm not a big opera fan, but I like certain operas because they deliver a message, but they speak to you today in a modern sense. Like the Cincinnati Opera is next to doing the Barbara of Seville, which is the first ever rom-com, so to speak, and it's very funny. Which is, and then they're going to do Madame Butterfly, which is one of my favorite operas. It's sad, again, military-esque, but it is The Knock for those who want to see it. If there's a ticket still available, get it. If not, YouTube. And or when it appears at another opera house, go see it, because it's well worth the wait to see it. And that is my chocolate news for today.
All right. Well, thank you, Andrea. And that's it for today's show. So once again, Andrea, I want to thank you for all the good chocolate news. Greatly appreciated.
You're welcome.
And remember, folks, you can find more information about today's topics and past podcast episodes at www.thecincinnatiherald.com, the Sesh newsletter, or on our social media. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest, Instagram, and LinkedIn. And make sure to subscribe to our podcast on your favorite podcast app. Our podcast is on Apple, Spotify, TuneIn Radio, Amazon, YouTube, and Google Podcasts. In addition, the Cincinnati Herald is now accepting applications for an advertising representative. Please contact our publisher, Walter White, at 513-680-7076 for more information. And one more thing, folks, our website got a redesign, so make sure you check it out and look at how fancy our website is now. It's not from the 2010s anymore. But seriously, in all seriousness, though, the website did get an overhaul and it looks very nice. So I want to thank Newspack for that. Anyway,
yeah.
Yeah,
it looks fabulous. I mean, I'm just all agog at it. I can't wait to play with it. So
yeah, and it's more mobile friendly too. So definitely check it out. I'm John Alexander Reese,
and I'm Andria Carter,
and have a good day.